The forest seemed to swallow every sound as the column of German women prisoners moved along the narrow road, their boots scraping the frozen dirt in a slow rhythm that matched their exhaustion and fear. The air carried the smell of smoke from distant battles, and the cold stung their skin like needles. They had marched for so long that time itself felt like a shadow that no longer had meaning. Each woman carried the weight of 6 months without bathing, 6 months without comfort, 6 months without a moment of peace. I love, the youngest among them, kept her hands close to her chest, trying to protect herself from the relentless wind. Her uniform, soiled and stiff, hung loosely on her thin frame. She had once served as a clerk in a communications office, but now she was simply another prisoner in the chaos of a collapsing world. The others marched beside her, some limping, some whispering prayers under their breath, some staring ahead with eyes that had forgotten how to blink. American guards at the front walked with purposeful steps, their shoulders squared and their expressions unreadable. They spoke in low tones that the women could not understand, their foreign words passing through the air like another kind of cold. One of the guards, a tall soldier with a calm presence, often glanced over his shoulder at the women as if trying to measure how much more they could endure. It was not cruelty that sharpened his gaze, but a kind of wary concern that grew each day. Night approached, and with it came a deepening sense of dread. The women feared the darkness more than the march, for the night brought memories, nightmares, visions of the war that refused to let them rest. Yet, when the guards finally halted near an abandoned factory, the women found themselves grateful for the chance to stop, even if the place looked like a ghost buried in metal and dust inside. The broken building, the air was thick with old oil and forgotten machinery. The women settled against the walls, laying their tired bodies wherever there was room. Anna curled up next to Marta, an older woman who had once been a nurse before everything around them collapsed. Marta wrapped an arm around her, trying to pass along whatever warmth she still possessed, even though her own body trembled from the cold. "We must be strong," Marta whispered in her soft, hoarse voice. "The Americans are different from what we were told. They have not harmed us. Perhaps they may even help us." Anna wanted to believe that, but hope had become dangerous, a fragile thing that shattered too easily. She stared at the shadows cast by the guards' lanterns and wondered what fate awaited them. She remembered the last time she had seen herself in a mirror, months ago, her face streaked with dirt, eyes, hollow hair matted and tangled beyond repair. She wondered if the Americans saw them as human or simply as remnants of the defeated enemy. Outside, the wind howled against the factory walls, and the guards discussed something urgent, their voices rising and falling with tension. The tall soldier stepped inside, studying the group of women with a troubled look. He approached Marta and Anna, kneeling beside them, his breath visible in the freezing air. "Long night ahead," he murmured. Though they barely understood his words, he pointed toward the broken ceiling, then toward the distant horizon, as if warning them of a coming storm. They nodded, though fear prickled across their skin like fire. The soldier lingered a moment, then stood and joined the others near the entrance. Hours passed slowly, and no one slept fully. Each woman drifted between waking and dreaming, pulled back to the sound of boots crunching outside or whispers echoing through the broken corridors. Sometime after midnight, the storm arrived. Snow swept through the cracks in the walls, blanketing the floor in pale white. The temperature dropped so sharply that even breathing felt painful. Anna shivered uncontrollably. Her teeth chattering, she pressed closer to Marta, but the older woman felt too cold. Her breath shallow, and a regular concern tightened in Anna's chest. She shook her lightly, but Marta did not stir fully, her eyes half open, unfocused. "Stay awake," Anna begged. "Stay with me, do not leave me here." Marta gave a weak smile and touched Anna's cheek as if trying to reassure her, but the gesture carried more sorrow than comfort. Anna looked around, desperate for help. The guards stood near the entrance, trying to reinforce the broken door against the storm, their faces tense with frustration. As the wind pushed harder, the tall soldier noticed Anna's frantic movements, and hurried over. He knelt again, studying Marta with trained eyes. He signaled to another guard, and they lifted Marta, carefully carrying her toward a small corner insulated by metal sheets. Anna followed. Trembling with panic, the soldier gestured for her to sit beside Marta, and then he removed his own coat, laying it over the older woman before returning to the front of the factory. Anna felt tears forming, but she forced them back, unable to let herself collapse. Not now, not when everything felt on the edge of breaking. She held Marta's hand, praying silently as the storm raged around them. The hours crawled by, each minute stretching like a thread pulled too tight, ready to snap. Just before dawn, the storm eased, the wind died down, and the first faint glow of morning seeped into the ruined factory. The guards stepped outside, assessing the damage, their silhouettes framed by the rising light. Then the tall soldier returned, his face serious, yet touched with something that resembled hope. He motioned for the women to stand, gathering them with gestures that suggested urgency, but not danger. Anna exchanged a fearful glance with the others, then rose, supporting Marta, who leaned heavily on her. The soldier paused in front of them and spoke slowly, pointing toward the distant hills, then back at them. Something was changing, something unexpected, and none of them knew whether to fear it or cling to it as a sign that their suffering might finally shift into something different. The women stepped outside into the cold morning light. They felt a strange sensation stirring within them, a whisper of possibility, a spark of suspense that made their hearts pound even harder than before. They did not know what awaited them, only that it was drawing closer step by step, and that their lives were about to change in a way none of them could yet imagine. The morning light spread across the snow-covered ground as the women followed the American soldiers along a narrow path that wound between shattered buildings and frozen fields. None of them dared to speak. The air felt heavy with uncertainty, and each step carried the weight of fear and fragile hope. Anna kept close to Marta, supporting her whenever the older woman staggered, though Marta insisted she could still walk on her own, a hint of stubborn pride flickering in her weary eyes. As they approached a cluster of tents, Anna noticed steam rising in the distance, drifting upward like a soft whisper against the cold sky. The sight felt unreal, almost dreamlike, after so many months of filth, crime, and unending hardship. The women exchanged confused glances, unsure whether to trust what they were seeing. The tall soldier stopped in front of them, raising a hand for silence, and then gestured toward the source of the steam, urging them gently forward. When the women reached the entrance of the canvas structure, warmth enveloped them like a blanket. The sudden change made many gasp, though no sound formed fully on their lips. Inside, they saw rows of makeshift showers built with pipes and wooden panels. Water dripped steadily, creating small pools on the floor, and the air was filled with a soft mist that seemed to glow in the dim light. The sight struck them with disbelief and a strange trembling joy that they were almost afraid to feel. The tall soldier motioned again, pointing to a pile of folded garments stacked neatly on a table, each piece clean and freshly washed uniforms prepared for them by unfamiliar hands. The women hesitated, some stepping back as if expecting a trick or a cruel joke, but the soldier simply nodded, offering reassurance with his steady gaze, and then stepped aside, allowing them to enter freely. Anna felt a knot tighten in her throat as she helped Marta toward the showers. The older woman placed a trembling hand on Anna's arm, whispering that she had forgotten what warmth felt like. Anna guided her under the stream of hot water, and the moment the heat touched their skin, both women closed their eyes, tears mixing with the flowing water as months of fear, sorrow, and dirt began to melt away around them. The other women slowly stepped into the showers, letting the warmth wash over their tired bodies. Some cried, some laughed softly, others stood frozen in awe, afraid the moment might vanish if they moved too quickly. Yet the warmth continued to rise, the steam floating upward like a promise that their suffering was beginning to loosen its grip. When they finally emerged clean and wrapped in fresh uniforms, a new quiet settled over them, not the silence of fear, but the silence of lives, slowly returning and unspoken, understanding passed through the group that they had reached a turning point. A fragile spark of humanity offered in the ruins of a world undone, and for the first time in many long months, Anna felt the faint, steady heartbeat of hope returning to her chest.